Hello, and welcome to the Grand Cinema Hotel, a podcast hosted by three friends who love cinema. I'm your host, Gus, and I'm joined by my two good friends, Alvaro and Nate. Tonight, you'll be staying in room 102, Lamb, the first feature-length film by Icelandic filmmaker Valdimar Johansson. So go ahead, get comfortable, throw on that Do Not Disturb sign, and enjoy the show.
Hey everyone, thanks for checking back into the Grand Cinema Hotel. We wanted to give a big thanks to everybody that tuned into our debut episode last week. We had a lot of fun doing it. We also got some great feedback from people, and it's just some stuff that we're going to keep working on to make this podcast as best as we can. I know that it really inspired and kind of it fueled us. We were super excited after doing the first one, so we've been looking forward to this all week long. Little podcast update. We did get our third mic in, so maybe you'll be able to hear everybody a little more clearly. Gus, do you have anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, hey guys, Gus here. Last week, wow, real Frankenstein's monster of an episode. A lot of editing, a lot of post-production. Alvaro's a real fucking champ for that. We won't get too much into that, the behind the scenes of it, but let's just say it wasn't easy. And now with the third mic, we're all going to sound much better, much more clear. Last week, Nate and Alvaro had to just share a mic and kind of sit right next to each other. So that kind of caused what you were hearing. Really, really hard to edit. You know what? Let's bring him in. Alvaro, how did you feel about editing the podcast last week?
Hey guys, Alvaro here. I definitely remember telling you that it was only going to take like 4 hours, I think, because I was like, oh, it should, and ended up taking what, like 10? It was 2 days.
Yeah,
it was 2 days, so it was a little hard.
Let's not say how long it took. But yeah, okay, it was very quick. It's a quick turnaround here. We kind of are trying to turn these episodes out very quickly because these next few months are packed. So
I did have fun doing it. So
yeah, this was a lot of fun, and no complaints about that. It's just
definitely
it's going to be sounding a lot better and a lot smoother and just a lot more clear in general.
So we just wanted to say thank you to you guys for putting up with that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully nobody complained. I received no complaints. I don't know if
Nobody said anything to me. Yeah.
No complaints.
Yeah, I mean, thank you guys. Very nice of you. It's going to be obviously better, so you don't need to bring that up if you see us in person, that it sounds much better.
Right.
We know.
I mean, thank you to whoever was on our stories, right, watching it and clicked it, because that's like most of the, if all, the clicks definitely came from our social media, Instagram, because we'll work on getting the other ones lifted pretty soon. But as of now, it's going through our personal page, so thank you to anybody who clicked on that and even shouted us out. We had some people shout us out, so that was really nice.
Big thank you to you guys.
We did get a few people who DM'd us the new flesh.
Yeah.
That was the code word of the last episode. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you just self-reported that you didn't listen to the end last time. So thank you for that.
Boo.
No shade, I understand. But, you might be missing out on something if you don't listen to the end, and you won't know unless you do.
Right.
So stay tuned for a code word at the end of this episode. And, let's kind of get started here. Last night, we went out and we celebrated the first episode. We had a couple drinks, and then we went and saw a wonderful little film. Nate, why don't you tell us what we saw last night?
Last night, we went and saw the A24 movie Lamb. It was very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, good film.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know if I absolutely loved this film or if I just kind of liked this film.
Yeah.
I know I didn't hate it, that's for sure. Yeah, Alvaro, why don't you tell us a little bit about, I know you have a lot of research about this film. You did a lot going into it. Just one of the ways we're getting better every week is just learning as much as we can even before we go into seeing the film. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you found in your research?
So I found out that this is Valdimar Johansson's debut film. He has done 2 short films before, and he's worked on Rogue One and
Prometheus, correct?
Yes, he did work on Prometheus.
Yeah.
What kind of work did he do on Prometheus?
He did a lot of effects
and
just lighting. So this is his first directional type of.
Yeah, this is his directorial debut for sure. I have not seen the shorts. I didn't look them up even going into this. I'm kind of glad I went in blind to this film. How did you guys feel about this movie on a first-time director basis?
Like after seeing the movie?
Yeah. Now that you've seen it.
Now that I've seen the film, I think you definitely can tell that it is probably his first movie.
Mm-hmm.
I know you and I were talking about that earlier, Gus. But as a whole, I thought it was very good. I thought he had a pretty good vision of what he was looking for. Some of the execution, I guess, might have missed on a couple spots. But I'm really not sure if that was super intentional or not. But
a lot of vagueness in this movie, and I can't tell if that's a master at work already, or if it's just kind of throwing the ideas out there and not really knowing how to execute on them. It's I saw one review say that this movie was a lot of build up and no payoff. I don't necessarily feel that way, but I could see why some people would.
I could see it like a person who goes to see movies for fun, who's not super into films. I guess they could probably see this as like what really happened. But I don't know. I thought that the payoff was. I thought that was worth it.
What about you, Alvaro? What were your how did you feel going into, like, once you've seen the movie? Don't give any spoilers yet or anything like that, but just like your general thoughts of how you felt as we walked out of the theater last night.
I was say, do you guys think that it is mislabeled as like a horror?
Oh,
I feel like for sure.
100%.
I feel like the second, like, it's like a mystery, and the least it's a horror, but most, like, in the front of that is definitely a drama, and specifically a family drama.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe at first people, because it came out in October, I'm sure people just thought it might be a horror movie. There's horror in there, definitely. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
There's horror elements, but I definitely think the big premise.
The horror is so light. If anything, it's like sprinkled in slightly.
Right.
It's not what they're selling it as, and I don't know if A24 does this as a way to get people into the movies, but A24 was calling it like a folklore horror,
Right.
folktale horror, if you will. Maybe it's just whoever's actually doing the marketing. I don't know if it is A24. That's not really something I would have knowledge of, but yeah, maybe they just don't know how to really market this movie.
Another thing that I kind of think is A24 seems to be a little synonymous with kind of folktale horror movies.
Yes.
So
You're right.
I think my interpretation was, maybe it's going to be similar to The Witch or The Lighthouse or something like that. And I do think it definitely hit on the folktale vibes, but a horror, not so much.
The horrors,
I
right?
definitely think it's more of a fantasy drama mixed into like a folktale. So
He personally said he thought it was a family drama with like one surreal like type of twist to it. You know?
And the he's speaking of is Valdimar Johansson, the director. Yeah. Wow. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm a little speechless here. Just thinking about this movie last night, it still doesn't feel real, right?
That's the whole point of the movie, I think, is it really, that's what I think he did a great job as a director, is the tone of the movie. He nailed the tone as almost like it's a nightmare that's not quite a nightmare. It's a dream landscape. There's a lot of mist and a lot of fog and some eerie. The score is kind of eerie, so it gives that dream-like vibe, I guess, but...
Yeah, the movie does have this heavy dream vibe where you're not really sure if, like... It kind of just felt like, am I watching a dream? Is any of this real? It just... So good on that end.
Especially the way some of the characters take some of the things that are handed to them. It's kind of like... What's really going on? Is this real? Like, is this happening or not? I don't know.
He did say he wanted to make a film that he's never seen before, and I could say that. And I agree with that 100%. You know what
One
I mean?
thing I did see is that he had at one of the premieres, whether it be, I think it might have been Venice, his mother had brought him his journal that he had written in when he was 18, and that he used to have these dreams of these big rams and sheeps like out in the field, and he doesn't really elaborate on that too much. That's kind of why I'm not so sure if the whole like mystery element is just first-time director not really having total control of their own film and leaving it so much into interpretation. But it definitely different than like last week, Titan. Julia Ducournau, even though it was only her second film, that is like a master at work who firmly has a grasp on what she is trying to say in this movie.
Agree.
And I feel like in Lamb, not as much. It's so much up to interpretation, even though it's like such a straightforward film.
And that's how I felt after leaving the movie, I guess, is I felt like it really was such a straightforward movie from the first viewing. I was like, okay, is that really all it was about? So when I got home, I know I'll bring this up later, but I kind of sat and was digesting it and came up with some different thoughts about it. And going back to whether or not that was on purpose, that the director did that on purpose, I'm not really sure. But I think maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, go ahead, Ro.
Some of the other thing I wanted to bring up from the information that I had looked up before I saw this that he co-wrote this with Sean, I think is the way you say it.
One second. We're going to get these names wrong as well. I promise you we'll get names right eventually, but starting off with the French film and an Icelandic film are not really the most accessible mainstream movies to be starting with, so give us some time. The first American movie, I'm going to nail those names. I promise you. But go ahead, Oliver. Sorry to cut you off.
No, it's okay. I was going to say, though, is he's an internationally acclaimed author, and he's actually part of another A24 film that's going to come out next year, I believe, right? But
yes.
he wrote the book that Robert Eggers is looking at for The Northman. So that's really fun. Looking forward to watching that movie. I know I know both of you really like Robert Eggers, but Nate loves Robert Eggers.
Love me some Robert Eggers.
If you listen to the last episode, Robert Eggers is on the Mount Rushmore of the new horror directors. So yes, we are big Robert Eggers stans in here. But let's get back to this movie that we're talking about today. So go.
So I know that, Ro, you were saying that the director worked on Prometheus. Was it Noomi Rapace?
Yes,
she was
Noomi
also
Rapace.
in Prometheus.
We made sure to get that one right.
Yeah. I'm not gonna get that one wrong, Noomi.
I saw a story that he had met her on the set of Prometheus, and that because he was working with like the effects and things like that, that there's a scene where she's running and she loses her shoe.
Yeah.
And that he held on to this shoe the entire time.
Oh, really?
And he gave it back to her when they started filming this movie, and she's like, "What the hell is this?"
That's crazy.
And he's like, "Oh, well, I worked on Prometheus. This is from Prometheus. Like, do you remember me?" And she's no. Which I thought was so funny.
Oh man, shout out Prometheus.
The only other thing she's worked on is that Millennium series, right?
That's the girl with the dragon tattoo, and I've never seen those, but I know that those are Swedish, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and that there's the American version as well, right?
I've seen
David Fincher.
That's why I was confused, because I've only seen the American version. I didn't know that the story was from somewhere else. Honestly,
Yeah, that
until
threw
you
me
brought
off
it
because
up.
isn't it Rooney Mara in the American version?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. But yeah, Noomi Rapace is really exceptional in this movie. Just like last week, this is a film that doesn't have as much talking as you think it would.
I think even less dialogue than last week's film.
Yeah, like no spoilers here so far, but I'd say probably for the 10-15 minutes, no talking, right?
None at all.
Which, I mean, granted, it makes sense since the setting of this film is a rural farm, and a rural
farm.
Yeah, it's a farm in Iceland, and they're a childless couple. They kind of just seem to live a pretty boring life, right?
It seems very mundane and monotonous, and they kind of go through their life doing, their daily chores and daily tasks. And
Did you notice that they take shifts?
Yeah,
somewhat and that it never gets dark.
That was also pretty interesting.
Yeah. I wonder if it. I don't know. Maybe this just happens in like these Iceland, Sweden, Poland places, right, where it doesn't get dark like all the time.
I kind of understood that, like the setting of the, I really appreciated it. I thought because it was like it makes sense why. Yeah, exactly. Setting. Why they were like, no one bugged me. I'm gonna live up here.
Oh,
like that's right.
I kept thinking, I was like, man, if we could pod out of this place, that'd be awesome.
Imagine.
I just watched
the
movies
air there,
and pod
just
out of
like
that place, right?
It's just funny you're watching a movie, but like it felt like the air there is clean.
Yeah,
I feel it.
That's one of the things I thought that the cinematography did a really good job with is all the wide shots that really make the characters feel so small, like in the whole landscape. I thought it was. Really
I don't know if
done.
it was just me, but this movie reminded me of a different form of media. Actually, it reminded me a lot of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, just like the crazy landscapes and the hills and like the mountains, and it just reminded me of like a good time playing Breath of the Wild.
It seemed like there's a lot of shots where they used. I know it's like longer lenses. I believe when you go more like 80 millimeter, it's when like they make the mountains even look bigger. So like there was a scene where it seems like the floor is meeting the mountain.
That was
So like and then there's snow in the mountain, right? So it just looks like the mountains are really close to you, even though they're not. But again, really making it seem like the characters are these little entities in such a big environment.
Yeah, there was one specific shot in the film. I want to say it was within the first 15 or 20 minutes of the movie, but one of the actors is just walking across like the hill, and it kind of just looks like they never go anywhere.
That's exactly
right?
that's exactly the scene I was
Okay,
picturing.
you're thinking about that too. Go ahead.
The grass, it just went forever, and that, like you were talking about, the way it met the mountains, it was beautiful. It was you could have a whole movie about that landscape, and I'd probably watch it.
I would compare it to that feeling literally when you go to the beach, right? And like they literally say the sea meets the sky. It's the same effect, except with mountains with grass.
I know that this film was like a family effort, right? I know you have some notes on that too, Alvaro, don't you?
Oh yeah.
That the cinematographer, I believe, is his son-in-law, correct?
Mm-hmm. And I think they had some other family that was working as animal herders on there, and there was a lot of stuff.
And I know that the director said that they really helped like bring this vision to life and like this dream, and that it's not really the most like normal way to work on a film, like with your entire family, but I liked it.
I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, especially since it is his first movie, like having that opportunity to work with your family and put this out. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, his wife produced it. His stepdaughter, I believe, is the way they phrase it. Like they both helped produce it.
Okay.
And his daughter worked on the kitchen. And I know, if I'm not mistaken, his brother also was involved in some way. I think he worked with the animals.
Okay.
Yeah, so
that's cool.
That's really, I think that's something I look up to at least, because that's something everybody wants to achieve, I believe, or I feel that way, that you'd want to make something
with
work. Kind of like how this
family.
podcast is.
Oh,
you just make it happen with the people that you love. And to be able to do that with the A20, like a movie that's being, cause it's in Iceland, right? And then A24 picks up the rights, and then now we're watching it here in California. And like you said earlier, like I like the movie. It's not bad in any way. So
no. I definitely am pro this movie, and I would definitely recommend it. But I will say it's not going to be as accessible as even. I thought Titan wasn't an accessible movie to really recommend to people, but this one even less
so. That's how I felt.
Like
I think
this
so.
is a sleepy little movie,
It
you know,
is.
and maybe we just shouldn't have had the 2 beers before, but I was very relaxed going into this movie, and I got a little sleepy in the beginning. I'm not gonna lie. I do feel like the first chapter, the movie's broken down into chapters, kind of like a book. Mm-hmm. It's part 1, part 2, part 3. I felt part 1 dragged just a little too long. I felt like they could have cut it like maybe by 10 minutes.
Which I thought was interesting, because I think my favorite part of the first chapter was the opening scene. I really enjoyed.
I did like that
scene.
It reminded me of a De Palma film, and I know both of you have recently watched Blowout, and you know how that movie starts with like the movie inside the movie.
That's so good.
This just had like such a heavy like De Palma vibe, and it also reminded me of the opening scene of Midsommar, where you just have that shot into the window and you can see all the snow falling. But in this film, the camera moves, and I think we need to shout out the cinematographer by name. His name is Eli Aronson. I know I got that one right. Perfect. I like the way this guy moves his camera.
I do too.
And I just think that first shot really kind of like gives you that foreboding, evil vibe that something is not right on this farm.
It was almost menacing. It was very foreboding. Yeah.
And they also had those cute little ponies in the beginning, right? Those guys never showed up again. Where were they?
I have no idea.
That was my question I was going to talk about. I was like, it's funny how they showed those, because even I was watching it, I was like, those aren't sheep.
Yeah, right. I was like, those are weird looking sheep. And then they got a little closer, and I'm like, oh, it's ponies, or a little like the mini horses, right?
The way that he was able to move the camera and get it to feel so natural, I was impressed. He did a very good job.
What do you think? Should we start getting into the actual breakdown of this movie? What do you guys think? Spoilers? No spoilers for this one.
Spoilers.
I think you need spoilers.
You think you need spoilers for this one? Okay.
I think we talked about pretty much everything we can without. So
here we go again. Spoilers from this point on. If you want to pause the movie and go see it, we love that. If you don't plan on seeing this movie and you want a breakdown of it, just stick around and we'll keep going.
Maybe we'll convince you to go see it. Who knows?
Yeah, hopefully we do convince you to go see it, because movies like this need support, and that's part of what we're here to do.
They do not come around very often. So.
No, I don't know if we'll do this every week, but let's report how many people were in the theater again.
Not many.
What would you say? Maybe 10, 12 max?
Yeah.
Even less than that.
And when we got there, we were the only people in the theater for a good bit.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping it was only going to be us, give that whole private screening vibe, I was like, okay, they know that the Grand Cinema Hotel's here. They know that we're here for the review. They gave us our own room. Sick.
Right? We made it already?
Yeah, I know. Already? Wow. The support, crazy. Okay, so let's get into the film. This film starts, and like we said, it's got that crazy opening shot in the beginning with like a real menacing, foreboding vibe. I will say that the movie doesn't really get any more evil than it does like within the first 5 minutes.
I don't think so.
Definitely mislabeled as a horror film.
100%.
Because the first 15, 20 minutes of this movie is essentially a silent film, I would say. And it's just showing the day-to-day life on a farm, which is very monotonous and,
Yeah.
in my humble opinion, looks very, very boring.
Right, and you can tell that the couple, Maria and Ingvar, they seem to be a little bit distant. We're not really sure why, but we do seem to sense a little bit of distance in between them throughout these first.
Maria played by Numi Rapace, and let's see here. I'm gonna have to pull up my notes for this pronunciation.
Ingvar.
Yeah,
Played
Ingvar
by-
was played by Hilmer Sneer Guansson? No?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry for
You
that.
nailed it.
I'm glad you tried it,
Shame
though.
on me. I probably should have just went on Google and played his name out loud and
Right.
had them say it, but we'll go with that. And he plays Ingvar, and Maria and Ingvar are sheep herders.
They're sheep farmers, yeah.
Right.
It also looks like they do a little potato farming too, maybe, but yeah.
Yeah, right. Potatoes are the other
Majority
thing.
sheep.
And they're a childless couple. The film starts on Christmas, correct?
It is a Christmas
I thought that
film.
was a nice little touch. Lamb is a Christmas film,
Yeah,
just
right.
like one of our other favorites of the year, The Green Knight. We got two good, quote unquote, Christmas films this year.
That did make me feel like if that was, you talked about the importance of opening films, and one of the first dialogues in the movie is the radio, actually. And it's saying something, how it made me reminisce is like, if you believe in Christianity, it was inside of a barn. So it's like, and it's on Christmas Day. And I just think, is that something that plays back to, we had the discussion prior, what you thought at the end of the movie. Kind of, does it connect to that? And we'll touch upon what that opinion of yours is. But, now thinking back, I remember that it is on Christmas, and the radio, I don't remember what it was saying, but it says something alluding to some later themes in the movie, I would say.
This movie does have a lot of biblical imagery and symbolism, I think, that honestly could go unnoticed. So, yeah, I
just
do
noticed
think that
you
plays
know?
a role into the film for sure.
And then we have we have Maria and Ingvar. They're sheep farmers. They potatoes. Iceland, no child, as we can tell. But later on, we do see that there is a crib in their in one of their barns, kind of alluding that maybe they have had a child at some point. And I mean, obviously they don't now. And we just kind of see their day-to-day life. And one of the more, I saw that this was a real live birth that they caught on camera.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a couple
right?
of them. Yeah,
That a couple of these were live births, and this was not the right movie to be having popcorn with. I reached over, I was like, "Bro, can I have some popcorn?" And as soon as I shoved the popcorn in my mouth, a baby lamb came popping out of out of a sheep, and oh man, I picked the wrong movie to eat in.
the movie did not shy away from the birth at all.
She felt the same way because she had been filming a movie in New Orleans before, and because they were waiting for the lambs to be close to having the babies.
Yeah.
So then they flew her back out to Iceland when they thought it was around the time. And so she was in the trailer the first day she came back. She just hears a knock. She's like, the sheep are having a baby. He's like, you need to go rush until
The lambs are here. The lambs are ready.
lambs are here. And so she ran, and that's what they actually recorded was that first
She was already in costume, just ready to go straight out the trailer.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's awesome.
And
I
she-
really like that.
So that expressions that she has, or all of the reactions she has, is really what
It's
she
real.
was. And she didn't get any training to learn how to take it out. She just kind of had to she had been reading some stuff, but she had
convinced
never
me.
actually physically had to do it.
Pretty straightforward, you just pull it out.
Because that was one of the things too. It's crazy they just grab them by the legs and just pull them out. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, a kid, human babies are so fragile. That I feel like that's not the way that they usually do
Oh,
it.
no.
And then, but they're just pulling it out. This lambs, which I thought, like you said, just kind of a little disgusting. But
I feel like that on its own is it's us as humans being like, whoa, that's crazy how they have babies like that. But if these lambs these sheep were in the wild, they wouldn't even have us to help them give birth. It's obviously they
That's
know it's
interesting,
nature.
yeah.
They know what they're doing on
Yeah.
their own. But so it's Christmas night, and go ahead, Nate.
But I just think it's funny that you kind of bring that up because I feel like that is a main point of the movie.
Of this- is that nature
the
doesn't need you.
Human interference with nature. So yeah,
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and so we have 15, 20 minutes of basically no talking and seeing their everyday life. And one thing, I think the very first topic of conversation that the couple has is about time travel.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting to say the least.
Right.
There's a little recurring joke we have about movies having time travel as a theme. We're not going to get into it. We're not going to say who it's about. But
if you're listening, you know who you are.
yeah, you know who you are if you've heard this. And a little recurring joke is that we'll walk into the movie 5 minutes in, look at each other, go, time travel? Time travel? This movie, in my opinion, that's just a way of bringing up the past, and that like you can tell that this couple is not really on. I wouldn't say like that they're on bad terms, but that there's not much of a conversation going on between them on a day-to-day basis. They say the minimal amount that they kind of have to each other, and I think later on in the movie we get some small hints that might allude to why their relationship is the way it is.
To me, it felt like that they were a couple that had gone through something traumatic or serious, and that it was like they're kind of rebuilding or trying to get back into, you know, like how you fall out of the honeymoon stage or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're trying to work back to that. It's a lot of small talk and, you know, a couple hands on your shoulder, but it's nothing too crazy.
I mean, if they're speaking to each other for the most part, it's about farm work.
Right.
It's not, you know, hopes or dreams. It's not about what should we have for dinner. They just talk about the farm, basically.
And when they're having that conversation about the time travel, Ingvar goes ahead and says, like, you know, oh, I'm happy with the present and I'm happy with our current life. And you see Maria, and she's a little, to me, it felt like she was almost kind of put off about the thought about potentially being able to go back to the past. It seems like she's a little maybe afraid of the past or doesn't want to think about it or kind of move on. So
I believe she has some sort of line saying about like it would be interesting to do the past. I don't think she was like talking about the future.
Right.
And then Ingvar brings up, he's like, well, not in a literal sense. Like theoretically time travel is possible, but not that they've like figured it out. And then she gives this little line, just a quick little, oh, well, I'm sure they'll figure it out soon. And I just feel like, I know you later on are going to have a point about this aspect of the film, but yeah, sorry.
It just seemed like she was relieved. She's like, oh, it's not real? Like, they haven't figured it out yet? Okay, cool. Okay. Well, maybe they'll figure it out one day. Like, okay.
So we see their everyday lives, and then I think we should get to this, the scene. One day on their farm, you know, everything's going normal, and one of the sheep is about to give birth. Or has it given birth? Sorry.
No,
it hasn't given birth, right?
No,
because the sheepdog lets them know that like something's going on, right?
The dog starts barking.
The goodest boy.
The goodest
boy.
Whose name is funny enough? It's just dog. They don't have a name.
Yeah,
for the
right.
dog.
It's just dog, but they call him boy.
Yeah.
That is something actually that this movie does a lot of in that time that they didn't talk that I thought was really good. Is that like they get a lot of emotion out of animals that you know obviously can't act very well, but like the cat gives you like vibes like he knows something eerie's hanging on. The dog is a very good boy, like you guys said, and he kind of indicates them of stuff before it happens.
Yeah,
the sheep, like the whole time they're getting recorded in the like the barn and the opening scenes, like when they're rushing out, like there's just so much emotion being shown for something that I know has no emotion scientifically, but it almost makes you think like, oh, where did they get these?
They really knew how to catch these sheep. And just like an emotional state.
For real.
I felt like you could see the sheep's emotion in this film. And the cat, too. The cat was the one, like, no one knows what's going on here. Am I the only one who understands the situation that we're in? Mm-hmm. And even later on, we see the cat kind of like, I don't know if he bounces or if he like just leaves the house. Because we don't really see the cat leaving the house. But later on in the film, we get this shot of the cat in the field. And I just feel like he's like, hey, I sensed the earthquake coming and I got out of here. I tried letting you guys know, but you guys weren't listening to me. Nobody listens to the cat. Everybody listens to the good boy, right?
Exactly.
Good dog representation in this movie. The beautiful dog.
It was a very good boy.
Very good boy.
It's just funny.
He was good at his job.
Yeah.
All of that just connects to like what you were talking about, the cinematographer doing a good job. Because that's all it really is making the story being told through images. Because a nice zoom, a look at the eye when it's a little like, I think the sheep always have kind of like lazy eyes, right?
Mm-hmm. Their eyes
always looks like they're crying kind of.
Yeah, a little bit. So we get to the scene here where one of our sheep gives birth, and we can already tell that something is not right. But Ingvar and Maria, the way they handle this isn't the way that a regular couple, I would say, would handle this. Or I don't even know if regular is the right word. But they handle this with grace. And they handle this like this is not the weirdest thing they've ever seen, but as if it's like a gift.
Right.
You know? And we get our first little glimpse of what Alvaro so graciously calls the lamb baby. And Maria takes the lamb and she just, I think she takes it inside. She bathes it, right?
Swaddles it.
She swaddles it. She gives it the whole newborn treatment. and we start to get a sense that this is now their child, that they've adopted this lamb or stolen it, which I think is more of a theme to this movie, is stealing from nature and taking what's not yours.
Right. That's yeah.
And I feel like that is going to set up really what this movie is like trying to say.
And I think that an important part of that at this point, we don't know why they've taken the lamb into their house.
No.
Like the look on their faces and their mannerisms and behavior is telling us that there's something different about this lamb, but we're not shown it. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
At this point, is it when, or maybe it might be after, but I know that at first Ingvar seems to have like several thoughts going through his head about it, because again, there's not much talking in this movie, but he's out in the tractor when they're planning what I think is the potatoes that you were alluding to.
I think,
but he kind of starts crying.
Yeah, he has a couple scenes after they have first moved the lamb into their house and put it in their crib.
I thought at this point he hadn't shown too much emotion about it.
I don't think that he had. He seemed a little turned off by it, and he did break down later doing his work. Once again, we're not 100% sure why, but yeah, it didn't look like he was dealing with this situation as easily as Maria might have been.
That's what I thought at first.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, and then so let's not do scene by scene for this movie because it
doesn't need it.
Yeah, I don't think it really needs it, because there's so much of this movie that is just like a slice of life, as they call it in like anime, like slice of life genre. We're just kind of seeing what this life would be like, and they play it very, very straight, even though this movie is like low-key hilarious.
It is. It was funny.
It's a very funny movie, but I don't feel like they're taking it like it's funny.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe we're just assholes and we see it as funny.
That kind of, I feel like that plays back into what we were talking about earlier. Was did they leave did they know exactly what they wanted out of it? Because I mean, it was funny. I thought it was funny. Our theater seemed to be laughing.
Our theater, yeah. Anytime they showed the lamb baby, let's call it the lamb baby. Yeah, I mean, we got some laughs in the theater, and I think everyone was kind of in on it before the movie had started. I know that the people behind us in the theater, shout out them. You could tell that they were A24 junkies, because as soon as the movie ended, they started talking about other A24 movies
like
that
The
this
Witch.
reminded. Yeah, they brought up The Witch, they brought up Black Phillip, and I guess I don't really see what the
they are both
comparison
sheep,
is.
though.
Yeah, they're both sheep. Same thing.
Yeah. But so I think the next main thing that probably happens in this movie that we do need to talk about is what Maria goes ahead and does. So basically, since they've taken the sheep into their house, the lamb baby, the mother sheep has escaped the barn basically and has kind of posted up outside of their bedroom window and is just constantly bleeding.
Powerful performance by this sheep.
Right? Like,
I'm not even kidding.
You could feel the loss.
Yeah, that this mother sheep is just like trying to get her baby back. And it really like lights our character, or gives our characters like a new light on them. Like, okay, maybe these people aren't as like nice as we would think they are, or that like, oh, lucky them, they got a new baby, but that they're thieves and that they're stealing from nature. And it kind of like this whole like folklore aspect of the film. I know, like in folk tales and fairy tales, that this usually they end bad, right?
Usually do.
Yeah, and I mean, let's not get too ahead of ourselves, but that if you like fuck with nature, that it's gonna come back. And this is the fuck around and find out movie.
Nature has always been here.
Yeah, nature has always been here, and it doesn't need them, and it doesn't need them stealing from it. And I would say that like the main theme is like returning to nature, or like nature taking back what is theirs. And
she knows.
Our
Maria
characters are
knows.
not doing that. Yeah.
No.
But Maria, go ahead, Nate. What does Maria do to the mother sheep?
So we see Maria. She has a nightmare. And the nightmare is of a bunch of it's the sheep in the barn, and they have glowing eyes. It was a cool scene. It was a pretty cool scene. It was very ominous. You can tell that she took it as a nightmare, almost as maybe a warning of some sort. But she did not listen. She goes ahead and she wakes up from the nightmare. You can see this look of frustration upon her face, and she grabs a rifle, goes outside, and she shoots the mother ewe in the head. She murders the mother of the lamb baby that they've taken, and she drags it. I don't know. That was a tough scene for me, honestly.
Yeah, she shoots her in the head. She grabs her by the horn and just starts dragging her across the farm.
She buries her in a very unceremonious fashion. It was cold, and then she just kind of goes back inside, and movie continues.
You're right. Let's talk about the lamb baby.
Yeah,
let's talk about the lamb baby. They named the baby Ada, ADA, but it sounds like AHDA. They are, and we also see that they have a crib in their barn, and that they have clothes in their barn, which alludes to the point that they had a child at some point, and obviously they don't now. But so that's kind of like why this is their second chance to have this child. And we just start seeing their like everyday life, like raising a little family again, and how happy they are.
And exactly, you can see their demeanors totally changed. They seem to be getting along better. They seem to be smiling. They seem to be doing things they weren't doing before. Like, I
have a question to ask you guys. I'm gonna ask Ro, and then Nate, go ahead and chime in. I saw one review that it kind of says that. Okay, well, I personally thought this movie took place over like a few weeks or months because animals grow a lot faster than humans do. But this guy implied that the movie took place over 5 years. Did you feel that way? What did you think?
I guess I don't see that, and I think a lot that throws that off is the fact that I think you talked about this already, that there's never any nighttime, so they're like constantly sleeping in the daytime too. So it's very hard to mash up even when it's obviously when you see them go to sleep, it's like it's gonna be a next day.
Yeah, a day has passed.
But if they don't do that, I don't know how you can really tell. So, I mean, maybe that's what time is distorted a little bit for me because visually there's no start and finish. But for 5 years, I didn't get that from at all because I guess to me it seemed like at most months. She might have been like, like some months. Like I've had dogs before and they grow really fast, like you said. So I don't know. Maybe I was like, maybe the first month.
Let's give a shout out to good boy Brutus. Brutus grew really fast, like within the 6 months of you getting him. So. I mean, I'm not sure how fast lambs grow, but I personally thought it took place over months. I couldn't see this 5-year aspect to it, Nate.
When in movies, when you're not given a clear times table, what I usually like to do to try to determine time is see how many times we see the seasons change.
Yeah.
The seasons change once.
Do they? I mean, I feel like I didn't
from what I picked up from it, that's what it seemed like to me. I mean, the sheep were in there during Christmas time, and then they ended up letting the sheep out, and then when the other guest comes, it's around that time, and then during the climax of the film is when it starts getting cold again.
I think that makes sense though too, because when we have the nice little scene when she's the little what is it from the?
Oh, I looked over. I reached. I didn't reach over. I looked over at Alvaro and I whispered into his ear. I was like, "Our May Queen."
So gorgeous.
They had put a flower headdress on.
But it's sunflowers, so I think that alludes to spring. Right?
Oh, true. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we know we have passed at least months. I don't know about this 5 years.
I don't think it went over a year. Honestly,
I think what he's saying makes a lot of sense to me because we get that Christmas clip, and then it has to be around right before spring starts, where the sheep has the lamb baby, and then by that point because that's a little far ahead where we were chronologically talking at the moment, but I think that's when like spring is around, and then after that I think it might go to winter at most, because I know that at one point there's a scene where it seems like the water is frozen.
Okay.
Or no, actually I'm sorry, it's like a marshland.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of rain. So I'm thinking it'd be like it seems like it's still spring. That's why I'm a little confused with the timetable. Again, not that it matters, but
I think for us moving forward in this conversation, do you guys feel good saying it was like 1 year?
That's how I feel.
Yeah, right. That it might have been a year, maybe max.
Yeah, max.
Right.
Max.
Yeah, I just don't see the 5 year thing, and I feel like they would have given them like more visual indications.
That's what I was gonna say.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The characters really didn't change all that much.
Because they like later again somebody else joins it. All three of them don't seem to age very much.
No, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, now that you brought that up, let's talk about our third and only other character in this film. That would be Ingvar's brother, and his name is Peter.
Peter with a U.
Yeah, with a U. Very European.
Are we gonna try to say his actor name? Or is
I know his name's Bjorn. I'm not gonna.
I could try.
I could try. Go ahead.
I think it's Bjorn Hilner Haraldson.
Oh, you know what? That was easy. I should
have
looked at my notes. Yeah, I probably should have looked at my notes on that one.
I was like, yes.
That's a good W for Alvaro.
We're one for 4.
Yeah, we're 1 for 4 on names today. Nate, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about Peter?
So Peter, we're introduced to him. We are actually introduced to 3 other people, which we get maybe a glimpse at. But basically, we have this car pull up on this very rural road, and all these people get out. There's 3 people. They get out of the car and they open the trunk and they basically kick this dude out of the back. We learn that that's Peter. So he finds his way to the farm, and at first, at first I didn't know that he knew anybody at the farm. Like it kind of seems like he's a stranger that crashes in their barn for the night.
Intruder alert.
Right.
More.
And that's when when Ingvar comes out the next day and he's not like, I think he says like, "Oh, you're back again," something like that. That's kind of when it was an indicator, like, okay, they know each other. And then you get the reveal that he's the brother of Ingvar when they finally have, I think it's breakfast or lunch or something. And that's when he meets Ada for the first time.
Yeah. We'll get to that right now. But the character of Peter, I think he really helps drive this movie. Like, because I think if they hadn't introduced him, this movie would be like, what would you say? Like,
too straightforward?
Not too straightforward, but that I feel like we would just be like on a crash course to the end. Like, okay, you started this movie, now let's get to the end of this movie. But I feel like he helps fill this movie out, and in a way that Ingvar and Maria don't, because they're kind of empty characters, honestly. I know they're going through a lot, but and maybe that is like with this whole first time director thing that we're talking about. Go ahead.
His introduction kind of would end up giving you a glimpse into knowing about their past
of their life, right?
So it's kind of inserted there. I feel that character because, like you said, if he's not inserted there, then we don't really get anything of what the past, the tension that we've been talking about when the movie first began. That you seems to be like they're distant from each other, and we get some of that info through him or through some of the actions. This is a very
broad comparison, and on the opposite side of the scale, but it's almost like in WandaVision where he helps shatter their reality of like, what the fuck are you guys doing?
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think that's a good
where
comparison.
he gets there, he shows up to the farm, and when he gets there, actually, he gets there at the same time that Maria shoots the mother.
That's what I was gonna say.
Because
he's
hiding.
He witnesses that, and he's hiding.
You're right.
And I found it very interesting that he didn't just like, hey, like I'm around the corner, and did you just kill that sheep? No, he hides and he stays in the barn for one night before, like, letting them know that he's here. And then, yeah, like you said, Ingvar finds him, and that's when we realize as the audience that, okay, they know him, and that it's not that weird.
Which that kind of plays into how I think I digested this film, is him not saying anything at that moment is just to show that there are secrets that are kept by people.
Yes.
And I truly believe, I honestly think that Peter played a more integral part to the story than Ingvar did.
Yeah.
I personally view him and Maria more of the catalyst of the whole movie than Ingvar. Ingvar is more just kind of along for the ride.
I did think one thing was interesting that you bring that up when they, like when they find out the next morning for breakfast that he's there. Because he seems like whatever with his brother, but he goes and hugs Maria, be like, oh, it's nice to see you. Which, in all honesty, I was maybe thinking it's some, like, because they're not from America or something, like, but I think that's like crossing a certain line, even being able to like go hug your brother's wife. Like it just seemed a little off to me at first. Yeah.
And Peter definitely is bringing the susness, I would say.
Peter is sus.
Yeah, he's sus. One little funny note about Peter is that he was like some like Euro musician, like making like cheap house music. Like, what would you even call that?
I don't even know.
I was jamming to it though.
You were jamming to it.
I did like it.
I did like that scene where they played the music video of his.
I thought that was a really
and I thought
cool
it was
scene.
a nice little touch that it was on VHS.
Yeah.
Just and that he's so cool. No, he wasn't. I don't know. Okay, whatever. He was cool.
Which alludes to like the people who were dropping him off. You think they're kind of like
Do you think they were his band members?
That's what I thought at first.
I saw one person say in a review that they thought that they were like creditors,
like debt collectors.
Debt collectors. Yeah, which is not a concept I understand. That concept is also in Squid Game, which we've all been kind of watching. And this whole like idea of that people coming to, I don't know, like fuck you up and remind you that like you better pay your shit off. Or what? They just dropped him off at his brother's farm. I don't understand how they fucking him over.
That was one of the things. That's a big directorial first time debut thing. I didn't understand those people at all. Like I have no idea where that guy came from.
Yeah, I mean, Peter could have come from anywhere. I don't get why that had to be.
Because if they were his bandmates, why the fuck was he in the trunk?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like I don't know.
Yeah, that didn't really seem to make too much sense or to have any rhyme or reason to it other than just this will be funny because I'll pay it off later. To
me,
with the joke.
It seems like he's somebody who might have he was hot shit back in the day, kind of grew up and didn't really do a whole lot of things, and then when he runs and he falls on tough times, he goes back to his brother's farm.
They do let us know that he has been. This is not the first time that he has either lived or come back to the farm. So. Seems like
important.
Yeah, it seems like he comes back whenever times are tough for him.
One of the things he did want to, I feel like we should touch upon, is in that breakfast scene we were talking about it when he sees Ada for the first time. Like his expression is
that's his introduction to Ada, but he does see Ada when he is asleep in the barn. He wakes up.
Oh, you're right.
And, you know, like
that's where that scene from the trailers
getting the crumbs out of his eyes, and he's like, what? And all you see is Ada for like maybe half a second. Then it cuts back to Peter.
You're right.
And then he looks back and she's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that Ada has definitely grown from not being just a small little child, or not a child, but a actual like infant-sized baby to now being a toddler.
At this point, she's probably like the size of like a 7 or 8 year old.
Yeah, she's pretty big.
Like kid.
Let's get into Ada before we get into this scene of the first like breakfast as a little family.
Yeah.
I know that Ada is she's made of multiple different forms. I don't know if I really liked how I said that, but
I get what you mean.
Yeah,
because
like
it's not like she's just like, oh, the top half is or like a sheep, and then the bottom half is human. She's like mixed in a way.
Well, not only that, but I mean the actual
like
technical
CGI
aspect of how they made Ada.
Yeah.
I know that she's part CGI, part practical, and also like a human actor and some puppetry, which I thought was pretty seamless.
It looked phenomenal.
Did you think CGI? I didn't think CGI at all.
At some parts I did, but I thought
Was
it
it the
phenomenal.
facial expressions?
It was the facial expressions.
The only
because
reason
I feel like facial expressions is where they still can't get it right with animals, and it's because animals don't
They're
make
animals,
facial expressions.
Yeah, exactly.
The only reason I knew was because of prior research, but I didn't know that they did everything else, was because I knew that she had said that it was weird sometimes to record the scenes when they were holding the baby because it had a green mask over it.
Yeah.
So that's why like the sounds are human, but then that's when they would do the CGI, I assumed.
That's something that I picked up on is when it was a baby and it would do some lamb bleats, but then it would also have some like baby coos mixed in with it.
Mm-hmm.
It was really cool sound design. I thought that was cool.
And Ada is actually we kind of skipped over the reveal, but like we said, we're not going to do a scene by scene breakdown for this. If you want to see this movie, go ahead and you can fill in those blanks for yourself, because I do think this is a movie that people need to take in on their own, and it's not really for us to be like, this is what it was about, this is what it wasn't about. This is just one of those experiences that is so dreamlike where I feel like it could mean anything to you. But Ada herself is actually made of, she's a sheep's head, right?
Yep.
Her right arm is like a foreleg.
Yeah, it's like
right?
a hoof.
It's like a hoof.
Yeah.
Yeah. And her left arm and chest, the rest of her's human,
Yeah.
right? From the legs down, or from the chest down.
Because you get like the fur kind of continues down to like her collarbone and then goes in a little bit further on the side that she has the hoof, but then the other side it's a human arm and human lower half.
The way we discover that in the film is that this whole theme and idea of like returning to nature, or nature trying to go back to where it belongs, is that even though Ada seems to be enjoying this life with with Ingvar and Maria, she still can't help like that nature, that call of nature, and she tries escaping like multiple times.
Does. And even when the mother sheep, before she gets capped, when she's outside, Ada looks down at her. She looks down at the sheep for like
we
quite
see
a bit.
Like the true mother-daughter connection, and they attempt to take off.
They do.
And we get our really cool scene from the trailer where we were practicing this off mic, but I don't think we're gonna do it. But Numi Rapace just screams at this sheep,
Yeah.
"Go away!"
Yeah.
And it's so chilling, and just like with the setting, and I felt like it must have echoed so loud because
For
they're
real.
surrounded by mountains, like.
And the look on the sheep's face.
Yeah, the sheep's like, the fuck?
It's like, it was so good. Like, give those sheeps an Oscar,
Yeah,
honestly.
animal category in this Oscar.
For
They
real.
did just as good as the bear from The Revenant.
Yeah, that's top tier acting. But Maria and Ingvar take Ada back from the sheep. We're backtracking here, but that's before they kill the mother sheep. So Ada does have this tendency to like, nature calling and wanting to go back, but I'm going to keep doing that. Peter and Ingvar and Maria are just trying to hold on to something that is not theirs to hold on to. And that's going to play on later on throughout the film. But I would say probably for this movie is 3 chapters, like we said. This second chapter, I think this is like the meat of it, the good stuff.
I think so too.
Right?
It's a lot of family drama, and you get to learn a lot about all the characters in this part.
Let's get back to the scene, the dinner scene.
Where does it close out? Chapter 2, do you guys remember?
I wouldn't know because it's not like we're looking at our phones. But the first chapter is probably like what, like 20 minutes,
Probably.
20, 25.
I just meant like, do you guys remember what scene it closes out with the chapter 2? Because like, is them dancing with them knowing that's when you find out he was like a pop star? Is that still in chapter 2?
That's 3, I think.
I'm
not positive.
Yeah,
though.
I don't really have an answer for you on that one. But we'll get back to the dinner scene. And this is where Ada is introduced to her Uncle Peter. And I think this scene had a lot of good acting in it as well. Because it's a lot of silence, obviously. What did you guys think about that scene?
I liked it a lot. I was happy to. That was when I first noticed the difference in her hand and her foot, and like you kind of get a feel for the Ada character. But I don't know. Peter didn't know what the fuck to think. You can see on his face he didn't say anything at this point.
One little thing that he had brought up, he's like, "Oh, are you guys having another guest besides me?"
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, you'll see.
Yeah.
You'll see. And then Ingvar lets Peter know that he's like, okay, well, she's not used to being around other people, and she's not used to guests, so be kind of easy on her. And Peter just has this look on his face.
He has no idea what to think.
What the fuck?
He is like the audience, as we're like, what is this? And then you have these two parents that are they're just going along with it.
That's what I was gonna say. Is that was at the moment in the theater with the few people that were there that all of us laughed. Was that reveal out of all of them? Was when you see like the two, like one's a hoof, one's a hand.
Yeah, she just goes and grabs some cereal or whatever.
So it's like almost like the same. We felt the same way. Peter felt like, what are we looking at?
It's played so straight.
Yeah.
Like, there's not one little, this is kind of funny. Peter doesn't really even say anything like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like he saves that for after dinner. And then they have this dinner scene. It's awkward in the beginning, but it kind of just settles in. And I feel like maybe even if Ada wasn't involved in this story, these first dinners, sometimes when you go back and see family, could just be awkward on their own because we know that Peter, about Peter, that he's obviously having some troubles and he must be down on his luck if he's back here at the farm. I think Maria mentions to Ingvar at one point, she's like, oh, he must have been misunderstood again, right?
Yeah.
Like, not that it's his fault, but that people are always misunderstanding him.
Mm-hmm.
So they have the dinner, and it's kind of, this movie's so confusing with the no nighttime at all.
Yeah.
Right?
I really can't tell what time
because
of the day
I can't tell what's
on.
Daytime and what's nighttime. I can't tell if they're having breakfast or if they're having dinner.
I'm assuming that was breakfast.
That was breakfast
because he had woken up from the first night after staying there. You know what I mean?
True.
So and
he says it.
Cereal.
He's like, are you hungry? He's like, yeah. He's like, let's go get some breakfast.
Okay, got you.
And then we have a scene that kind of really helps us get into like the drama or like the small little love triangle, if you will, which is never really fully fleshed out. And would you have liked it to have been more fleshed out, or do you feel like this movie isn't really missing those things?
I really don't think so. I don't think that the whole love triangle was really. I don't know. I mean, I guess it was really the main point of the movie to me, but I don't think it really needed to do anymore. Mm-hmm. What about you?
It would have made this movie longer, which I don't think it needed to be any longer. Like I said, maybe if they had cut out 5 or 10 of the first couple minutes of this movie of that farm stuff. But Peter is here to like shatter the illusion of their little reality, and he helps us kind of realize what the backstory is of these people. He tells Ingvar that like, what are you guys, children playing house like with this animal? Like, this is an animal, this isn't a child. And later on we see a scene where Ingvar, there we go again, which is Peter and Ingvar. I don't know why I'm getting this so confused. Alike. Yeah, they do look alike. They look like they could be brothers in real life.
I think so.
I don't think they obviously aren't because like their names are different.
You're right.
But they really do look like they could be brothers. Good casting on that end. Peter is a motherfucker. And he's kind of here to like just fuck their shit up, even though he doesn't seem that way. But we see that he's spying on Maria while she's taking a bath with the baby, and it just kind of like gives off this vibe that like, okay, he's here to fuck shit up, and he's here to shatter their illusion, and I don't know if I could trust this guy.
Yeah,
but he does. He really walks that line, and he sold me for a little bit that it was like, oh, okay, like he's a good dude.
I thought he was a good guy, and then obviously you see that, and that's when everything kind of flipped. I'm like, okay, why are you really here? Like,
Yeah.
What are your intentions?
I think that's when when he does break the ice, when we get to know that, like, oh, there's some bad intentions there. It's with that, because he's like, oh, you left the door creaking open when you're taking a bath.
he does
Did
tell
you
her
want me to
later
peep?
on.
He confronts her and tells her, yeah.
So did you guys take it that they've had a relationship before, or that he is trying to start an affair?
I thought that was one of the questions to
So
the movie, because later, like after the end, after watching it, it really makes me, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but it really makes me think that might be why the reason there's some distance between Maria and Ingvar. There might be, and I think that was a director's intention, was to make us question whether certain things that I'm going to talk about
Let's
later
just
when
make
they
it clear
pop
to the
up.
audience. What we're talking about here is that Peter makes multiple advances on Maria while he's at the house, and I can't tell if she is just trying to keep it cool, and she doesn't really know how to like handle the situation because it's her husband's brother, or if she has had some kind of relationship with him before and is like, fuck, like you're back and you're just going to bring up the past again, and I really don't want to deal with this right now, because this movie does have a lot to do with like not wanting to deal with your past.
Because the reason why I think that, based off of what we've seen up until this point, when he brings it up that like, oh, did you leave the door open so I could see you? She said, don't start.
Yeah.
So it makes it seem like, okay, I know you might think this stuff, but don't start. Like, just like prior times before, just don't start. And that's why I think it's alluding to prior.
I believe that they've had an affair before. I truly believe that.
Or whether he first dated her, whatever.
I know Nate's got a theory that he wants to break down, like once we're done like talking about the film. So we'll get to that soon. But yeah, let's just move along with the movie. We kind of go back to our like day-to-day life but Peter now being involved, and he's not very helpful, even though he is appearing to be. He's just kind of going along on their like daily adventures with them, and then we get to this scene where I think this is interesting. They bring out like an old chair from the farm or from the barn.
They're cleaning out the barn.
Yeah, they're cleaning out the barn, and he sits on it, and he sees Ada kind of sneaks up on him. Oh, well first, there's this prior shot that I really like, and it's from the trailer, is where Peter's drums, right? And that's where we first get the indication that he is a musician of some sort. And he's playing the drums for Ada, and she looks like she wants to dance. I really did think she was going to.
I feel like she didn't know what to do.
That's comedy. You can't tell me that's not comedy.
It's like a little
right?
kid. She's like, I want to dance, but I'm too embarrassed to dance. Like,
yeah,
it was
and
cute.
then we see Peter sitting on his chair, and he attempts to feed Ada grass.
Yeah.
Which Ingvar does not like.
It's not just feeding her grass. It was humiliating. He wanted her to get down like a lamb.
Yeah,
and
he's
like
even calling her
act
like,
a
oh,
lamb.
little
sheepy.
sheepy. Yeah.
He was doing like he was being a bully.
He's trying to belittle the humanity of her. Mm-hmm. And Ingvar obviously doesn't like that. But they're very reserved characters. It's not it never comes to blows. It never really gets like heated. It's just like, why would you do that?
They are definitely
like, don't do that.
They're definitely not American.
Yeah, they're definitely not American. That's the easiest way to put it. That was another reason, was just maybe these cultural differences of like what Rose said, like, oh, like he hugged his wife. Like, is that normal? Like, obviously we don't really find that as something normal, but I just kind of thought like Europeans, kissing on the cheeks, hugging each other.
There's not the worst thing, obviously, but I just think there's like in America, there's like this underlying thing of course, you could say something like, oh, I missed it, it's really nice to see you, but to actually physically go up. And the hug just seemed a little too tight for me. In this case,
you were correct, though. You're correct to be suspicious of Peter, because, his little dog is trying to do something to his brother's wife. And after this scene of the grass feeding, we kind of get some alone time between Maria and Ingvar, and they have sex. Another movie with sex. Avert my eyes.
Is that before the scene that actually, you go, Nate. I think you might be thinking about two different things.
Okay.
I think so.
You think so?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about after that all happens, because it's before that he takes out of fishing and stuff, and I think that's when they have
the alone time, because he's taking her fishing, so they're not there, both of them.
Basically what happens is in the middle of the night, I think it's after the whole cleaning out the barn thing, but it's that night. Peter goes ahead and takes Ada from her crib, and gets her to come out with him to the field, and he grabs the gun that the mother prior used to kill the sheep mom. And he takes Ada out to the middle of the field and lines her up, and it looks like he's about to shoot her in the head. Brutal. I was like, where did this really come from?
We see Maria wake up, and I was like, oh man, is she gonna race out there and get him? Like, I really did think, I was like, man, Ada's toast. Or like, is he gonna miss? Or are we gonna see like another side shot come?
Really, what I really thought was gonna happen was Maria would run out there and stop him before that happened, and that was gonna be a driving force type thing for the rest of the movie. But Maria gets up, she looks all over the place, freaks out, goes out. I don't know, some room, I don't remember where, but Ada and Peter are asleep in a chair together. Ada's like sleeping on Peter's chest.
Yeah, on Peter's chest. And we start to see this like small change in Peter, which kind of comes out of nowhere. I would say.
It does. It does.
He just, what happened in that field, you know? I mean, maybe that's got some of the supernatural horror elements that they were like alluding to, but like, it's not something we see. But it makes me wonder, like...
Something happened.
Something happened, right? It's not like he just got a change of heart out of nowhere. We're like, oh, never mind, I'm not going to shoot her in the head. Like, he walked her all the way out there. He lined her up. So what happened off screen that we don't see that could have changed his mind, you know?
What I have in my head is, like, I like to think maybe she, like, picked up, like, a flower or something and was like, here you go. Cute, and, like, right? Something that was just like, what the fuck? Like, you know, like, what am I doing kind of thing.
But we get the sense that Peter is going to start seeing her as his niece.
As a real child. Yeah. So.
And then we do get a couple of cute scenes where like he's just hanging out with her, like you said, like fishing. He takes her for one day. He takes her on a tractor ride, and that's when they have sex. Is when they're on the tractor ride. It's Peter and Ada, and they're just having a good old time. He's like, "Oh, hold on tight." Yeah.
He's the fun uncle.
Fall over. Yeah, he's being the fun uncle. Well, they're able to have some alone time. And we see the sex scene.
He does bring up a little interesting thing in the boat, right? Where he's like, you don't know any songs?
Oh, yeah.
He's like, you're just like your dad.
Song? Yeah, you're just like your dad.
I used to know all the songs when I was a kid.
Yeah. Which is just further to the point that he's a musician, which we see a couple scenes later on. The sex scene in this movie is a little awkward.
Honestly, it kind of was.
It feels like a sex scene between two people who are not really in love.
That's why, like, I feel like that might be the first time. And you could tell, like, the expression on her face when he went down on her was like, this has not happened in a very long time. Like, it did catch her by surprise. So then you kind of, like we were talking about, like, this whole, now they're a big happy family. Things are going good. Like, they're finally getting their relationship started again. Like, things are getting back on track.
But since this is an A24 movie and a folktale, it cannot stay like this. Things have to get bad. I think the last little of these little family scenes that we'll bring up is we kind of already talked about it, but Maria, Peter, and Ingvar sitting on a couch watching a handball tournament.
They're getting wasted,
They're acting like it's the freaking World Cup.
Because I thought they were watching some soccer or something.
That's what I thought, right?
I thought it was the World Cup.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be the World Cup and that they were watching Iceland.
I specifically thought it was that year that Iceland did really good, and I think it was for the Euros. I thought that's what they were alluding to, because I was like, oh, that makes sense because they're such a small country. And remember, they were in the World Cup. They were the team that, like, their whole fans would make the most sound because they would do like a unison chant. So I just thought, and they were always talking about when the fans were there that like a percentage of the whole Iceland's population was at that game, alluding to how small, how small population there is in
that. You know, that probably has a lot to do with why we only see 6 humans in total in this entire film.
A very isolated movie.
Yeah, very isolated. I thought maybe we would even get some kind of like, they sell the meat or like the potatoes that they sell.
Going into the...
How do they make money? Do they shear the sheep and get...
Going to the market or something?
Yeah, I thought we'd get some kind of interaction, because there's even one point where Maria says, she's like, okay, I'm going out, but she only goes on the tractor. She doesn't actually like leave and go to civilization.
And I feel like that kind of plays into this. There's no way this shit took place over 5 years. Like, they never even killed a sheep. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh, true. Like, we don't even see them
kill any sheep. We never got a full cycle of sheep. Like, I don't know.
No, I think we're right with the year. That guy is definitely wrong.
You're wrong.
No hate. You're just wrong. It's okay. Sometimes we're wrong.
Yeah. But back to the movie. That's when they're watching the Icelandic handball tournament. They're getting drunk, and that's when they popped in the whole VHS and.
Yeah, we see Peter's little music video that looked like it's from the 80s or 90s,
fucking
right?
funny, dude.
Yeah.
That was really funny.
I wonder if that song needs to be available because getting a little meta here, talking about Off the Pod. We've been listening to the music from Teton.
Oh,
I feel like all of us have.
I've been bumping it like crazy.
Yeah, like they just some really good bangers on that track or on that soundtrack, and that tends to happen where I just get obsessed with the movie and then I start listening to the music. And have you guys ever seen that meme about like me adopting the characteristics of the main character as soon as I walk out of a movie? Exactly. Yeah, like, okay, that's who I am now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I wouldn't say I do that with the characters, but I definitely do that with the music because it just helps me think about the movie.
Because I know for like the Green Knight, you specifically like the soundtrack.
Oh,
you know,
I
you
do.
like a lot of the
the
score,
the harps,
the
and
score,
chants
exactly.
And like sometimes when I'm just hanging out, sitting there, I will listen to the Green Knight score and like just think about the movie.
What,
and
are you
as
a nerd?
opposed to
I definitely am, and that's why we're having this podcast.
As opposed to Titan, I remember like you were like I don't play the soundtrack because it's kind of like why do I want to listen to those weird sounds? But you listen to the music that was in the movie because they went back and they did such a good job, spent so much money on that. So it makes sense that the songs are bangers for that movie as opposed to this one. I did like the song.
The song in this movie kind of was a banger, right? Peter's little song.
I want to hear it again.
I like
for
when he
sure.
stood up and he's doing his little head turns. He's like doing the choreography.
That was
really
mimicking
funny.
what he's doing in the videos.
And I also just think it's funny those little cultural differences because they're like, man, he was so cool, and like I honestly can't tell if they actually mean that or not because to me he was very much uncool.
Yeah.
It was like very dorky. It gave me the same vibe of like the band, okay, like you know in Sing Street when they're filming those music videos. Yeah, right. Like that cheap Sing Street music videos.
I couldn't remember the specific names of the people in it. That's why I didn't bring it up. But I was like, this seems like the song that the older brother talks about that he hates.
Oh, was it the Duran Duran song?
Yeah, because he hates Duran Duran, but the little brother loves Duran Duran, right? So I was like, this sounded like something the older brother would be like, this is trash. And that's so funny that you bring that up.
Yep. So we get the scene of them with the handball in the music video, and they start to play handball. And
really fast before we move on, that Ada dancing with them, I just thought it was so cute.
Ada has her little
finally
dances.
dances. Yeah,
she, baby dance. She just basically jumps up and down.
It's so cute.
But yeah, that was definitely cute. I could totally see how they just were like, you know what, fuck this. This is our baby now. This is like,
I love her.
You guys are fur baby parents, so
that's why
I was like, that's how I view Elvis. I was like, Elvis is half dog, half human.
That's what I'm
saying. Shout out Elvis, good boy.
Elvis.
Shout out Brutus, good boy. Yeah,
that's funny.
So we get that scene of them playing handball, and Ingvar actually passes out from being so drunk, and he's not used to drinking anymore. Peter puts him to bed, and
again a weird feeling because he gets in the bed. The sun's still out. It seems like at least. I think it might be one of those things like in certain seasons like in Alaska.
Yeah.
It's 12-hour days. 12
that 30 days a night shit.
But they must be in that whole time where there is no nighttime for a couple of months. I think there's certain parts in the world where that happens. I didn't know it was Iceland, but again, I'm not informed enough to know. But I think that's what it's like, since it's such a high elevation too. I think that's what it might have to do something with that.
So the susness comes back into play. Yeah. We see that Peter puts Ingvar to bed. Him and Maria are cleaning up in the kitchen, and Maria mentions that they're having a really good night, and Peter's like, well, it could get better. And, he makes a couple advances at her. She asks him to stop. And then, kind of similar to Teton, she gives in for like a quick second. Right? This and Teton were actually very similar. Like
they had a lot of parallels.
And it's kind of interesting that these movies came out back to back, and just like this whole idea of like motherhood and nature, and like what is nature actually?
Replacing something that's lost.
Replacing lost things. Yeah, these movies are very similar to each other.
Maybe it's saying what we like.
Different ends of
right?
the scale.
Yeah. Maybe that's why we look forward to seeing these films.
Maybe they're just hitting what we like. It's hitting different, but very similar. Very similar. And I'm glad that we're doing these back to back.
Because at first, the funny thing that I was thinking that there's just so random that I was thinking about it because the last episode when you were like, and she cheated on her car. And I was this upset when this one happened. I was like, how dare you? I was like, how dare you cheat on poor Ingvar? Yeah, what did he do?
I thought Ingvar was just catching strays in this movie and that he didn't really deserve any of this. But
what's up with that? That's what you said at the other episode. Yeah. That was me. I was like, what's up with that?
No, my boy Ingvar.
Yeah.
So we see Maria take Peter to like the hallway. And they start kind of kissing and making out. And she opens up a door. She pushes him in. And she locks him in. And that is very reminiscent of like The Shining when they lock Jack into the into the closet.
Yeah.
And Peter starts just like banging and like, let me out, let me out, let me out. And Ingvar's asleep. He doesn't really realize what's going on. And then I believe the movie just kind of cuts to like another, like a next scene, right?
So what happens now during all this is when Ada gets up.
Yeah,
That's
she leaves. Remember?
Ada gets up because she's sleeping with her dad right now.
Yes.
Like she got put to bed with Ingvar. So while they're doing that whole thing, Ada goes ahead and leaves. She leaves the house, goes outside, and we get the score kicks back in. We get the camera view from like it was in the very beginning, and we can tell that and she sees something. Something's there.
The reflection in the eye, which is on the poster.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I know.
It's on the poster
They reveal that in the fucking posters. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But so you get a reflection of what she sees, and it looks like a big ram thing, something kind of like her, maybe, right?
We've been referring to him as Ram Dad.
The Ram Dad.
The Ram Dad.
And after this happens, the dog comes out. The dog comes back out.
Shout out dog.
Shout out dog, and he's pissed obviously because this thing is not supposed to be here and it does not have the best of vibes. And we see Ada kind of like, I think she runs back around the corner and the dog goes at whatever this thing is, and it doesn't sound too good for the dog. So
go ahead.
One scene that when last time we were talking about the scenes that we thought we were thinking about the same one that I think we might have brushed upon that I think ties back to the important thing after is that they have, I don't remember where it is, but it seems like Maria and Ada have some like, they're just kind of walking around this big territory that they have, right? And it seems like they walk up a hill and there's a graveyard.
Yes, we do need to bring this up.
This is important.
That this is a reveal that they had a child that has died that was named Ada, and our little sheep baby Ada is replacing the real Ada, and
tying back to Titan again, the same thing
of replacing the
something that's
the real
gone.
Adrian with the fake Adrian.
Exactly.
Yeah, just another way that these movies are very similar. So we see that they have like a graveyard on their property, like you're saying. Let's start trying to wind down the actual plot of the movie. I think we need to get to this climax.
We're basically
Mr.
there.
Ram Dad.
Yeah.
We have one last scene between Peter and Maria where she packs his shit up and she gets him on the next bus just out of their farm. I think she takes him back to where he was dropped off, which is like a main road.
It looks like
right?
that's like a bridge that connects to their road to their place or something. Yeah, whatever.
And he gets on like what they call I think it's like the Norderlund Express or something like that.
It's a Greyhound bus.
Yeah, it's a Greyhound bus. And we get that scene of Peter leaving. That's finally over with. I'm going to have more to talk about after we're done with the plot of the movie, but let's get to that. Ada has gone... I believe she's gone missing one last time, right? And that is why Ingvar is looking for her?
No, they go... So Ingvar goes ahead, wakes up, and Ada's back with him. And that's when he decides to go and try to fix the tractor that was broken and go check the fishing nets. So he walks with her out into the field. And he doesn't even check to see where Marie and Peter were, which I was like, that's kind of weird.
Well, he does. He calls out their name.
Okay, maybe. Okay, gotcha.
And again, the timeline gets thrown off here again because I feel like, he said he was going to take a nap. It felt like he needed some sleep. And I thought maybe he fell asleep for like 4 hours. But then it seems like obviously based off of his brother being locked down there and then her taking it down and this bus arriving. That seems
like
to
a
be,
whole day,
yeah,
right?
like he slept the whole day and they were doing this maybe late at night where they were watching... where they were getting drunk. So that's like that timeline threw me off. But that's why like it seems to be morning because the bus is coming. I'm going to assume that this bus is probably coming by like, I don't know, maybe like 10 in the morning.
Yeah.
So that's why they're gone. And then that's when what happens, what you were saying.
This has got to be one of the most shocking. This is the most shocking scene in the film.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
For sure. This is what it's building up to the entire time. I really didn't see it coming.
I didn't either.
And I didn't see the movie ending like this
I
either.
didn't either, man.
Who wants to talk about it? Who wants to go ahead and just say what happens?
I'll go.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, like we were talking about, Maria and Peter, they say their goodbyes with the bus. When we think, same time, we think what's going on is, Ingvar goes ahead and takes Ada to go fix a tractor and check some fishing nets that, some stuff that was left behind by Peter. Maria gets back and she notices that there's nobody there. She can't find Ingvar and she can't find Ada, and she's calling out to them and they're not responding. So she goes ahead and, starts checking the grounds, which seems to be a very common theme of this movie. Like, we're just going to go look around the farm because something's missing. But anyways, she hears we hear a gunshot. And immediately, like, what the fuck's going on? Like, what I immediately was like, what happened? Did he kill Ada? Like, did Ada kill him? I'm like, what the fuck's going on? So Maria is frantically looking and looking and looking. Well, we get this reveal that the gunshot was a ram dad. It was basically something that was basically like the same type of creature that Ada is, but
this is where we get the reveal of what exactly Ada is and where she comes from, all without saying anything. We just see that there's this humongous unit of a manimal. Let's call him a manimal.
I like that manimal.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, he is a ram's head with a jacked body, and he has to have 2 arms. Logistically speaking, because how did he pull the trigger and hold the gun? Right.
I think they just basically molded him just like her, male version, but he was huge.
And this is Ada's father, and I mean, he's rightfully pissed.
Yeah.
His child's been stolen from him. His baby mama's been shot in the face. I can understand why he did what he did, but it's a really cold ending for Ingvar. Ingvar did not deserve this.
I was so shocked. I mean, because we had seen the reflection in Ada's eyes, so obviously you know that something's happening, but just because you get a close-up of this thing, too. It starts at his face, and it pans out, and you see him holding the rifle. I think he shoots him twice, does he not?
Oh, he shoots him in the neck, and then I think the chest. He double taps him,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, he did.
I felt the same way that Ada felt. Because like she was really distraught.
This is the first time she shows like true emotion.
Exactly.
She puts her head on him, and you can tell that she's sad, but at the same time, it does seem like because she is an animal, or half an animal at least, that she kind of has this understanding of like, okay, I'm not what they are.
Did you notice that after the scene, throwing it back, when she had seen the ram dad for the first time? After the dog is killed, when she's going back in the house and she looks at herself in the...
We're not going to go back, but there's multiple scenes.
She looks at herself in the mirror.
Where she does see herself in a mirror one time. She sees her reflection in a lake one of the times when she's by herself. And that's like the score kicks up, kind of gives that vibe of like...
But that's a good point.
Even she can tell something's wrong.
Because that's like, in that, after seeing the ram, it's like she... asked what you said. Like, she knows she's not like them, so she looks in the barn and she takes a good look at herself, and because maybe we don't know the rate that she's growing, maybe she's now becoming cognizant of, I do not look like them. And so then that ties back to where you're talking about.
It doesn't really get into it, but the whole being half the manimal of it all is that, do they have somewhat human thoughts? Like, maybe they can think for themselves. Like, I recognize myself. I see myself in the mirror. I am cognizant that I am alive and an animal.
That's why I take that scene that he brings up as, I think, because once she sees the ram daddy.
Ram daddy.
I love it.
Then she becomes cognizant of, oh, it's not that I just look different. It's that there is somebody that looks more like that I'm part of something else. And then what you said, the theoretical theory of when somebody remembers, our first thought is when I know that I am alive. So I recognize myself in the mirror. And I think that exactly ties back to what you're talking about, that she feels bad because they've just shot what she thought was her dad. But at that prior moments before, she understood that it was almost right, that this is actually my dad.
It's kind of like when, like Planet of the Apes, like Caesar having that realization that he's an ape and that he's not human. It's kind of like that, right? Like
the same type of feeling. Yeah.
If you haven't seen this movie, but you've seen Planet of the Apes, it's kind of like what's that vibe that's going on right there at the end.
I appreciated the whole cyclical nature of the movie. Like, like Maria shoots the mother of the lamb at the end. The father shoots the father of, Ingvar.
Shout out Ingvar.
And but continuing on, we have this scene where Ingvar's now laying on the ground. He's dying. He's bleeding out. This man looks bad shape. Even bad joke. But anyways, and Ada has her. She's almost like listening to his heartbeat. It kind of looks like. And then the ram dad basically kind of grabs her by the hand, and they just kind of walk off over the hill. Cuts back to Maria, and she's frantically looking for them, and she kind of pops over the hill that they are on, and she sees Ingvar there laying alone with the rifle by his side, bleeding out. And she goes into hysterics, obviously.
She's not really making any sense of the situation.
Well, yeah, I mean, how can you? Like, who shot my husband?
Right.
Because, I mean, like, does she think, did Ada shoot Ingvar? Because to her, there's nobody else here. You know what I mean? So.
The way this ends kind of just, it gives this, like, sense that they knew that this couldn't last and that eventually something was going to happen where Ada wasn't going to be with them anymore, because she just gives off this, like, feeling that she's not even, like, looking. I know she is looking for Ingvar and Ada, but then once she sees Ingvar, I think the reality sets in, like, oh shit, my husband's dead, and the baby, whatever, that thing's gone.
Because, yeah, you're right.
Because she doesn't really go looking for it. She sits there with Ingvar. She's trying to make sense of this whole thing. I don't think that she knows specifically that Ram Daddy came and two-pieced her husband.
No.
But the fact that she just, like, doesn't... I'm glad it didn't do this. But the movie just... It cuts to black. Like, let's just get that out of the way. It cuts to black. And the movie just ends.
The credits start rolling.
And I'm shook because I'm like, there's no way we're not going to see the revenge.
You said it
and
out loud. You were like, there's no way this is the real.
There's no way that this is over. And also, I guess I'm glad it is, because I know it would look cheap and funny if she went to go fight a Ram Daddy.
Go to, like, the cave or something.
And then not only that, the Ram Daddy would have just fucked her up as well. Could have just, like, gorged her with the fucking...
They've done whatever
with
he
his
wanted.
Horns, you know what I mean? Like
if they just John Wicked it.
No. I think it's like that realization that, like, okay, this time in our life is over now.
Yeah.
And, like, really trying to accept and, like, finally grieve, like, that this is over. That there is no... Our real baby Ada is gone. Now my relationship with Ingvar is done. It's just like a whole new beginning for her.
It's like you said at the end of the Teton review or podcast, when the illusion was broken.
Yeah. Definitely. And the movie cuts to black.
Credits roll.
Thoughts
start flying.
And that's how we end up here doing this.
Man.
I did think at the end of the movie, I was like, maybe it is a story about the origin of the guy from...
Mr. Tumnus. We were making jokes about Mr. Tumnus, that this is the Mr. Tumnus origin story. I knew I should have brought some Turkish delight.
He's way more of a badass than I thought he was.
Very interesting film overall.
Yeah, I was very taken back by the end. I feel like I haven't seen a movie that ended that abruptly in a long time. Yeah. To really just cut it off at the height of what the fuck's going on? Like,
I could see what the critic was saying about build up with no payoff.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, because they literally cut it off right. Because you know, when you draw it out, it's always the climax is right at the top of the roller coaster, right? It's like at the top of the roller coaster. You're like, all right, get off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I liked it, though. I felt like it was fitting for the film. Like, because to me, like, what else is there? There's nothing more that needs to be said for what I think they were trying to capture.
That's when I agree with what Gus was saying. Like, I know it may seem weird that they just abruptly cut it, but what are you going to turn it into? Is it all of a sudden going to become a revenge story? And in all honesty, she did look, and there's just miles and miles and miles of nothing.
What's she going to do? Just go on now for the rest of her days, just searching to get this baby back?
That it's not even hers.
Yeah, that's not hers to begin with.
That she stole and murdered the mother of. Like,
one of the things that I felt was, I guess, went a little bit sideways is they never really realized the good doggo is dead. Right? They never miss him.
Got his day.
Yeah.
And one of the interesting things that, because we were just kind of not going scene by scene, but I did really like from another scene. Oh, I think it is prior. Is when it's just them. Ada makes her dad breakfast, right? And then that's when the cat comes and like lays on her.
Yeah.
That was cute.
I like when he tells her, he's like, turn off the radio for me, yeah?
Yeah.
And that you can tell that she can understand them, but she obviously can't talk, which I think is has to do with what I was bringing up about the, like, okay, maybe they have some kind of human element to their brain of self-awareness and all that, and understanding human speech and just not being able to answer back.
It's basically like putting a human brain in a sheep or in the ram. Like the ram said the same way, because obviously he had to know how to grip a gun, right? Like,
yeah.
So it's intelligence, our intelligence put into a sheep. It's just brute strength.
Let's get down to our closing thoughts about this. I thought that this was a very, like, sweet movie, but also a very negative ending. I just felt like the lesson was kind of like, this is what you get. Like, if you fuck with nature, that nature's going to fuck with you back. And, like, to the realest degree, he literally got shot in the neck by a manimal.
Yeah. How did you like it?
Yeah, right. And that's such a, like, that felt like such, like vegan arguing points, like what if a deer shot you, right? And like that's basically what happened in this movie. This was the movie of like what if an animal shot you. Just what an awesome touch. I really like that.
Yeah, I thought it was so cool, man. I thought it was a really good movie. For a director's first movie, I really liked it. It's a solid 4 out of 5 for me.
Solid. Yeah, that you know what? That's what I put it on my letterbox as well. Even though I do think that maybe I'm just giving it a little more credit than it actually deserves, but
I feel like
I felt 4 out of 5, even though I wasn't. I could ask for more.
Being able to take that idea with such little really happening, like with such little dialogue and stuff, I thought it was impressive. It impressed me.
What about you, Ro? You got some closing thoughts?
I wanted to cite just what THR from France said, like specifically the quote to just kind of tie up the movie. But they said it's a disturbing experience, but also a highly original take on the anxieties of being a parent, a tale in which nature plus nurture yields a nightmare. And I think that's, out of everything that I've seen people talk about, reviews and stuff, I think that little line really, I guess, collects all the thoughts that I have for the movie of like what it is and why I think it was mismarketed as a horror. And I think it's not that it was mismarketed as a horror. I think like when you saw the trailer and the music that they used was very eerie, and it always made it seem like Otto was kind of like this demon. And like that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Because he always goes, like there was the scene where Peter was talking, like, it's not human. So it kind of always made it seem like there was some malevolent for her, that she was something that was really off or demonic. And because A24 just loves their demons, I just thought it would be something like that. And I agree with you what you said. Like at the end, it's just a really cute movie. Obviously, there's really sad tropes, and then there's other questions that arise from once you see the whole thing that I know Nate has some more touching, like what he thinks the thoughts of the movie were. And so I liked it. I did like it. I know you guys did 4 out of 5. Like I gave it a 3 out of 5 because I do think there's some parts where you alluded to in the beginning, I was bored. Like there were some parts where I was like, okay, like I get it. Like it's really nice out here. And the cinematography is really nice, which I always appreciate. But there was little parts where I was like, okay, is this, I think it could, the fact that there was such little dialogue,
I could totally
I was totally invested, but I was also like, can you hurry up? Like, oh, come on.
Yeah. And
there's only so much time, and I want you to get to the good stuff already.
And that's what I mean, is that the fact that I felt that way always makes me feel like I didn't feel like that about Titan. But I still can really appreciate that this is like it's an art house movie, and I can really appreciate the message that it's sending, and also the parts where there is stuff happening. I really like them. I just feel that there was a lot of spots where, like we just said, like I was like, okay, hurry up. Like I just want to get to what's the point of this movie is what I felt in certain spots. And then, but there was a lot of cute moments. There's a lot of touches about like family and how important it is. And so I think the values that the movie shows are definitely,
especially with this movie being a family effort, like being a
exactly.
Yeah, that was cool. I don't really have too much to say anymore. I don't think so. I'm going to save some of my thoughts for myself. Maybe I'll give these to you guys off mic. But go ahead, Nate. Nate, why don't you break down what you've been talking about this whole time?
Okay.
That you have a theory or an idea about this movie. Go ahead.
If you like conspiracy theories or any of that shit, buckle up.
Tinfoil hats. Here we go.
I don't know. After seeing this movie, like I felt it was a very straightforward movie. Whether you've seen it or if you listen to us, I'm pretty sure you can get a grasp over it. It didn't seem super complicated, which led me to be like, well, what if it is super complicated? How could I no? So I basically was looking at the movie through metaphors and stuff like that, and I kind of came up with a little theory, I guess. So, starting it off, the movie, I know we talked about it, but it opened up with the whole time travel talk, which for a movie with such little dialogue, that was weird to me. I was like, why are we kind of talking about this? So it kind of set up in my head, like, what if this is a story that is not happening necessarily in real time, but it's more of a reflection of events that have taken place with the people in this story, okay? So I was thinking, obviously, the wife had an affair with Peter, okay? She became pregnant with Peter's with Peter's daughter. And
the original Ada.
Yeah, the original Ada. And the representation, like, that's the whole thing is, like, I don't even really know how it factored that into that. But anyways, whatever. I'll keep going with this. When Maria kills the mother sheep towards the beginning of the movie, I felt like that represented the death of Peter's ability to raise a child. She had decided to take Ada and raise it with Ingvar, right? Even though it was Peter's baby, to try to keep it a secret, obviously, from her husband. and she basically killed his chance at being Ada's parent, right? So after Ada is born, like we see in the movie, like we were talking about, when Ingvar, he breaks down and starts crying within the tractor, and we can see that he's a little put off by Ada. Why is that? I think it's because he had realized that maybe the daughter is not his, and Peter may have something to do with this. And I kind of thought about that because when they're cleaning out the shed, you know, the scene when they see the drums and everything, they remove a chair from the shed, and Peter goes ahead and hops in. He's like, "Oh, you still got this old thing?" And he like hops in it, kind of squeaks around a bit, and Ingvar is like, "Oh, you would sit in that." And I was like, okay, like, has he caught them fooling around in there before, maybe?
Has he caught him sitting in something else before?
Right, exactly. So, again, this is all pure speculation, too. This is not facts or anything. This is just my thoughts on it. But after that is when we moved kind of towards the part in the movie where Peter had been exposed to Ada, you know, and he didn't like her. And the reason why I think he had this ill will and disdain towards her is because he knows that that's his child, and he sees the relationship that she has with Ingvar. And he knows that he's like, I don't think I'll ever be able to have this, you know, relationship with my true daughter. So I'm going to go ahead and try to, you know, we as people do it, like mock it or act like I'm not interested in it kind of thing. When he finally goes to break that relationship completely, when he was going to shoot her, something happens. And I think what happens is it's that she's my daughter kind of thing. So he keeps her alive, right? And he takes a liking to her. When he takes a liking to her is when we start having the Ram Dad kind of come back into it. And I basically took the Ram Dad as a culmination of like the resentment and the grief and an opposing male force toward Ingvar, the supposed father of Ada, right? So you can even see this, like you see once Ingvar goes ahead and takes Ada to, which ultimately leads to his death, when he goes out there to clean up the tractor that Peter had left out there and to get the fishing nets that Peter had left out there. He's cleaning up after his brother. He's taking care of his problems or his, you know, something that he has caused. And we get some more shots, you know, Ram Dad, we get the Ram Dad music and everything. That's like the presence, and the presence is felt, but nothing has really been acknowledged yet. And comes towards the climax of the film where dealing with all these issues is too much for Ingvar. And like I said, the Ram Dad, he's finally manifested. These feelings of grief, these feelings of resentment, these feelings of confusion and sadness are basically manifested, in which Ingvar ends up shooting himself, which is represented by the Ram Dad shooting him at the end. And then Maria goes ahead and finds Peter. She's obviously overwhelmed with grief and she's sad, but at the very end of the movie, she kind of like, she's standing in the mist and there's a couple of tears rolling down her eyes, and she takes one last big exhale. And I feel like that's basically just like her being free. Like she's finally free from all these secrets that she's been keeping, and her burden is finally gone. So that was just kind of my little take on it. I don't know how accurate that really is, but I thought it was interesting.
Wow.
That was very thought out, very well thought out.
But I don't know, because I just felt like I was like, this movie's too straightforward. I got to make this a little more complicated. So that's what I was talking about in the beginning. I'm like, is that what the director was going for, and he wanted to leave stuff open to interpretation?
Yeah, I can see that.
Or is the movie really so open that you can get all that shit?
I had told you off mic before we started that when you were like breaking this down for me, that I don't know if I had necessarily seen it the same way you did, but I did kind of see Peter as this like symbolic version of the Ram Dad, because like the beginning of the film starts with the ram like hunting, like not hunting them, but like watching them and seeing how everything is. And then when Peter does show up, we have like no presence of the Ram Dad until Peter is gone again. Mm-hmm. So I know with this whole folklore stuff, like there's stories about people turning into animals,
right,
and I just kind of see it as like maybe Peter, you know, leaves and manifests as the Ram Dad and comes back
to
and
take
like,
what is his.
To take what is his. Yeah. So like, I think we have like similar theories, but not exactly on the same.
Yeah. No, I think that's cool.
I do think that it's straightforward, but then it's I have this whole other theory.
It's also so vague, and it's because of the fantastical elements it creates. That, well, what else is going? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
It's folklore, but it never told you the story.
Right.
You know?
And it definitely, I also like throwing it way back in the beginning of the movie when they were watching a TV show and stuff, and Maria's like, oh, what did they say? Because the sheep is like bleeding outside, and Ingvar goes something about folk tales.
Yeah.
I just thought that was a cool little touch. You know what I mean?
Usually with these movies, they'll have some kind of not poster, but like painting, or someone knows the story of something similar that's happened, or
Right.
you know, in these woods men turn into animals or whatever, you know.
So which is funny because right before we get the climax, we have the super like tight zoom on the picture.
Yeah, I was thinking about that
It's like
too.
an old picture of some sheep herders in the same mountains, and you got like the sound kept increasing of like settlers and sheep, and I was like, is this gonna turn into like, are we gonna get some origin story for the sheep people?
We haven't said anything about that, but the sound design was awesome.
Incredible.
In this movie.
I
Yeah.
kept in that scene. I kept trying to see what it was zooming in. Right.
I thought
But
maybe it was going to zoom into the Ram Dad, or like him like watching
Exactly.
from the back,
Or like a person
right?
in there or something.
Yeah,
Like, I was
something
waiting for
like that.
something.
Same. But I didn't catch anything.
I didn't see
Maybe
anything.
once you were able to watch it at home, be able to pause, and maybe there is something there, like a little hint or something. But that is something. But alluding to what your guys' thoughts, I was gonna say, I think it's both, which is why we like movies like this. Like, it's a little bit of what you both have theories of, but it's also very literal too.
Yeah.
You know, like, so somebody could watch it and like it because it's just a cute movie, but then you could also, your guys is like what you guys want it to be about it. I think what makes movies like this really
This is
great.
what makes movies like this so enjoyable, is that you can have your own version of it in your head.
Four people could go see that movie and come out with different, almost different synopsis of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like different ideas of what it really
Because
was
you
about.
guys both have like, yeah, because you guys' beliefs are kind of, like you said, pretty matched, but not exactly the same. But there's a lot of evidence for it. And so to think, I can't tell you that it's no, because, I mean, you have more evidence claim. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you said that to me makes sense, like when you're explaining it. So at least think about it, not like be like, oh, this is for certain. Like you said, it's your opinion. But
I mean, you got to take the movie at face value still. And hey, he's the director. He made this. That's what he said it is. But we know that movies like this are meant to inspire these exact conversations that
Exactly.
we're having. So that was one of the reasons I gave this 4 out of 5. Just happy that movies like this exist. Happy that we're here talking about
Yeah,
them.
me too, man.
Okay, we said closing thoughts and then we rambled on. So
Yeah.
let's really get down to it here. Have you guys said your piece? Do you feel like you have anything left to say other than to go watch this movie?
Yeah, no, I don't. Go see this movie. Hit us up. Tell us what you think about it. I'm very curious.
The Grand Cinema Hotel at Instagram or at Instagram.com, but at Instagram. Closing word here. What is going to be our code word for this week for the listeners who have made it this far?
it's Little Bo Peep, I think.
You want to do Lil Bo
Little
Peep?
Bo
Little
Peep,
Bo Peep.
because
All right.
Ada was our Little Bo Peep in this movie.
She was.
Yeah, she was.
So DM us Little Bo Peep if you made it to the end of the show, just to let us know that you watched it, and let us know if you've seen this movie or if you plan on seeing this movie. And another thing I wanted to bring in the audience for is, if you see a movie and you feel like, let us know how we did. Like, did we make sense of it? Because like Nate had seen Titan after the recording of the pod, and I know that I was like, how did you feel like if you had listened to the pod first and then went and saw the movie, right? Because I
Yeah.
feel like some people may do that, and I hope you guys do. Hopefully we get you guys to go see these movies. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to
Yeah.
say about this week.
I think so too.
Please tune in next week. We'll be back with another film, something a little more mainstream with names we can pronounce. We won't give that up yet. We'll reveal that on Thursday, the night the movie comes out. And yeah, thanks for checking in to the Grand Cinema Hotel. This has been Room 102, Lamb, and good night.
Good night.